Under the feeble glows of a desk lamp, Robert Francis hunched over a worn map, its edges curling like ancient parchment. His pen scratched notes, each mark a promise of adventure. His eyes alight with anticipation, darted to intriguing landmarks, a hidden valley, a forgotten trail. It was 10:30 p.m. October's chills seeping through the window, and he calculated that a 600 a.m. start would sidestep Glasgow's morning traffic, securing the first train to Milngavie. From there, a few hours cycling would carry him to Everfoyle, a quaint village nestled at the edge of Scotland's untamed heart. His journey was etched in ink and resolve, fueled by a restless excitement. 11 months of relentless work, endless reports, flickering screens had left him hollow. The thought of 10 days alone, cycling through Scotland's wilderness with only a backpack tent and his trusty bicycle stirred his soul. Robert owned several bikes, each a testament to his passion. But for this, he chose his favorite, a sleek black mountain bike, its frame adorned with a rob and bold white paint he'd applied himself. It was his steed, unyielding through mud and storm. Never crashing, never breaking, never even suffering a flat tire. A companion as steadfast as the mountains he longed to conquer. Morning broke gray and sharp as Robert sprang from bed, his heart thrumming with purpose. Glasgow's streets were quiet, the city still yawning. He wove through sparse traffic, the cool air biting his cheeks, and before the world fully woke, he was on the train watching urban sprawl fade into rolling fields. Milngavie's platform greeted him with a damp breeze, and he pedaled onto rural roads, tires humming against asphalt. Scotland's summer was a fickle beast, colder than he'd hoped with clouds brooding overhead. Yet Robert didn't care. The countryside unfurled before him. Emerald hills scattered farmhouses, the occasional car rumbling past. A smile flickered across his face, fleeting but genuine. Cycling was his sanctuary, his pulse synchronized with each turn of the pedals. He was alive, reigning in his element. Hours bled into one another. The gentle hills sharpened into rugged mountains, their peaks clawing at the ski. Sparse woods thickened into dense forests, their canopies swallowing light. Wide roads narrowed to winding paths, barely trodden, whispering of solitude. Everfoyle emerged like a painting, one side a steep slope studded with wooden cottages, their chimneys puffing faint smoke. The other a vast plain stretching toward distant, mist-shrouded peaks. A childish thrill bubbled in his chest. Everfoyle was humanity's last outpost, a final glimpse of civilization before he surrendered to the wild. As he left its cobbled streets, a pang of exhilaration and dread stirred. For 8 days he would be alone, cradled by Scotland's raw beauty, answerable only to the wind. Queen Elizabeth Park loomed a sprawling wilderness, one of Scotland's grandest reserves. Robert rolled down Everfoyle's main street, eerily deserted, the silence pressing against his ears. Within minutes, the village vanished behind him, replaced by a landscape both alien and alluring. For 3 months, he'd agonized over his destination, but crossing an ancient stone bridge, its moss-slicked arches spanning a stream that babbled like a chorus of whispers, he knew he'd chosen rightly. Before him stretched a forest, vast and unyielding, blanketing hills, mountains and valleys to the horizon. The dirt path snaked through a labyrinth of trees, their trunks gnarled bark peeling like old skin. As he cycled deeper, the sun weakened its rays, strangled by towering pines that stood like sentinels guarding secrets older than time. Light became a trespasser, unwelcome and frail. By 6:00 p.m., the sun bled into the jagged horizon, painting the mountains in hues of fire and shadow. Robert's legs burned, his breath sharp. It was time to camp. He pushed through rugged hills, tires slogging through mud eyes, scanning for refuge. A small clearing beckoned just off the trail, a patch of grass encircled by ancient trees, their fallen kin littering the ground. Robert assumed their collapse had birthed this haven. Dragging his bike through tangled brush, he reached the center, the air heavy with the scent of pine and decay. On flat ground, he pitched his tent, its canvas taut against the evening chill. Gathering dry wood, snapped branches, brittle bark, he lit a campfire, flames crackling with primal warmth. Starting fires was his ritual, a flicker of controlled chaos he savored in the wild. He fancied himself a touch pyromaniacal, a secret kept for these escapes. Yet he revered nature, meticulous in leaving no scars. As night descended untainted by city glow stars erupted across the sky, fierce and unyielding. Robert sat by the fire, its heat kissing his face, reluctant to sleep. Tomorrow promised more trails, more solitude, more life. Dawn crept in the fire, a smoldering ghost. Robert woke, refreshed, his body lighter than it had been in years. He packed swiftly, dousing the embers with care, and resumed his ride. Overnight drizzle had slickened the path, but it held firm. An hour later, the landscape shifted wild or untamed. Trees crowded closer, their branches clawing at the sky. Clearings and fields abandoned for decades filled every gap, their grasses yellowed, choked by neglect. Robert realized he'd ventured beyond the ranger's domain, where even those tasked with taming the wild dared not linger. The thought that this land was forsaken, feared pricked his mind, then faded dismissed as whimsy. The sky-grayed clouds swelling with menace. After hauling his bike up a steep, treacherous slope, Robert reached a crest, gazing at a vast expanse. Forests, still pools, valleys, cradling secrets. Rain loomed, and he resolved to camp early in a grassy circle at the hill's base. Half an hour later, his tent stood a lone sentinel. Only firewood remained to gather vital to fend off Scotland's blood-sucking midges. His campsite, lush with grass, lacked trees, forcing him to forage in a nearby forest island, a half-mile-wide cluster of pines and firs. 10 minutes of trudging through sodden grass, his boots sinking into marshy earth, brought him to the forest's edge. Ancient trees, withered and moss-draped, stood like mourners, their branches rotting from within. The forest felt wrong, an intruder in the landscape. The vibrant grass paled, turning sickly yellow-brown, forming a perfect circle of dead earth around the trees, a grave's boundary. Caution might have stayed others, but Robert, ever curious, saw a natural marvel. He stepped into the dim interior light, fading to a ghostly haze. Fallen trees lay sodden as if drowned for centuries. Deep within, the sky vanished, twilight reigning. Dry branches and logs appeared, but the trees grew denser, their limbs weaving a cage. A foolish thought, he laughed it off. Rain pattered above, yet the ground stayed dry. He needed a fire before all was soaked. Gathering wood, Robert paused. Meters away behind a knot of trees, stones lay arranged ominously like a grave. Curiosity pulled him closer. Hundreds of gray stones, fist-sized with larger ones, formed a meter-wide, 2-meter-long pile, as if marking a burial. A chill gripped him, a sense of being watched. Then he saw its scattered debris, empty beer cans, a leaf-shrouded sweater, a faded sleeping bag, old food tins. Relief washed over him, a campsite, not a tomb. Likely students caught in summer rain had stacked the stones for fun, or to spook passers-by. Robert chuckled, memories of college summers surfacing. But one stone protruding from the pile caught his eye, triangular black as polished marble, wider than a hand tapering to a blunt end. Dropping his wood, he crouched, yanking it free after a struggle. Cold and slick, it bore chisel marks resembling an ancient axe head. Excitement surged, he'd show it to his archaeologist friend. Pocketing it, he retrieved his wood, but a pebble rolled from the pile, clattering. Unease crept in. Hurrying back, he felt eyes upon him, twigs snapping in the silence. Glancing back, he saw nothing, yet the feeling persisted. At the clearing, relief flooded him, but the air felt heavier, watching. That night, by the fire, stars blazed. Sleep was fitful, pierced by a distant wail, high predatory, yet anguished like a fox seeking its young. It echoed for hours, searching, moving closer, then farther. Robert lay awake, heart racing, wondering what hunted. Dawn silenced it. He rationalized another camper, startled by his presence, hid behind that tree. Cycling on, he skirted forest, sensing eyes within. Exhaustion gnawed by afternoon, the path curving to reveal a narrow, straight trail through dense firs. Barely wide enough to touch both sides, it felt like a trap. Hesitation gripped him, but he pressed forward, unease mounting. Halfway, the watch feeling sharp and visceral. Glancing back, he saw a figure still shadowed, malicious. It vanished, but sounds of movement closed in. Panic surged. Turning, he pedaled furiously, hitting a pothole, crashing. Blood dripped his arm, bruised the bike's paint, scratched two spokes, snapped. The wail echoed inhuman. He rode wheel-wobbling, escaping the trail, cycling hours without looking back. Hiding under a bush, no fire or tent, Robert shivered, sleepless. The wail returned at 3:00 a.m. closer. Dawn brought silence. Logic battled fear, perhaps a camper, a bird's cry. He lit a fire that night, cooked and relaxed, believing danger past. 2 hours into sleep, a noise woke him. The fire cast shadows, a man sitting by it, motionless. Peering out, Robert saw broad shoulders, tattered rags, matted hair. No breath, no shift. His feet faced the fire, but his twisted torso and head faced Robert, eyes glinting through hair. A neck crack sent Robert fleeing into the forest, feet bleeding until dawn. Hiding, he saw the fire burning. Gathering courage, he retrieved his mud-caked bike, unharmed, and rode, aiming for Everfoil in a day and a half. Cresting a hill, he saw the forest island again. A childhood tale surfaced, his grandmother's stories of gravekeepers, spirits guarding cursed relics. He'd taken the stone, unleashing this horror. Hiding his bike, he returned to the tomb, expecting the entity. Strange noises echoed, but it was absent. He jammed the stone back, a distant sound spurring his flight through mud and roots. On the trail, relief surged, he'd righted his wrong. That night, in his dark tent, he felt safe, dreaming of home. A smile curved his lips. Then the wail erupted inside the tent, deafening, inhuman. Robert Francis vanished, never seen again. Scotland's ancient wilds hold secrets. In 24, rangers found a torn tent in Queen Elizabeth Park, a black stone inside crusted with blood. Wheel tracks led to a stone pile where a new unmarked grave whispered in the wind. If you find such a tomb, stone sleeping bags, a bike etched with Rob walk on. Don't touch, don't take. The sleepers reclaim their own. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, drop a comment below. And please like, share and subscribe my channel.